Hey guys, we're into a new month. It's not that new anymore, but we are into March. February is done. A short month, even if it was a day longer than usual. So I'll do the monthly updates video, a few thank yous, and talk about a few things that have been in the news, including things like the Six Nations potentially going behind a paywall, the COVID-19 coronavirus and the effects that it is having on the game, and a potential change to the Rugby Championship format. Hold on just one sec. Sorry about that. I could hear some banging outside. I thought someone was like trying to nick a car out the front of the house or something. But nah, it's just the neighbor in the garden. So there you go. Yeah, but the monthly update, how's things been going? 177,000 views for the month of February. An additional 479 subs. I'm happy to say YouTube, with the messaging they send you, or at least to me when I log in, they're kind of getting off my case. After the World Cup, they kept sending me the, "You're down on subscribers, Mr. 2 Cents. Where's all your subscribers gone?" But with Six Nations back, rugby interest is generally across the board a bit more interested. People are more interested. Super Rugby's back. So yeah, YouTube's giving me some slightly more positive messaging for a change. So happy days. The number one video for the month was England's loss to France, that Six Nations game. So yeah, I guess that was a big result for France. So not too surprising that one was pretty well viewed. And most of the viewers, it's like dudes 30 to 34. That's pretty steady month on month. It's always dudes. It's like 90+% guys. That's your rugby audience, I guess. And number one from this month gone is the UK. And second is South Africa. Third is Ireland, then New Zealand, then Australia. So kind of a to be expected top five, with USA coming in at number 6. Maybe that's partially to do with a little bit of that MLR coverage that I've just started doing a little bit of. But yeah, interesting. Argentina and France are up there as well in top 10. So yeah, plenty of interest in the game as of late. But yeah, that's how the channel went in the month of February. I will say a quick thank you to all you people who've watched the videos, whether you've just joined the channel recently or been around for a long time, for liking, for commenting. All that stuff helps. I'm trying to get more into the YouTube comments. I do struggle for time at times. With my boss being back at work now, I've managed to shift some of the stuff that was landing on my plate to hers. So fingers crossed I'm not so worn out after work and I can get a sneaky 10 minutes on YouTube comments. I read them all, it's just I don't always have time to reply to them. But yeah, to the Patreon people, I'll put their names up on the scrolling list. Thank you guys for your support. It is awesome and very much appreciated. I did a few videos for Patreon this month, always the Super Brew ones. My results have not been great for Six Nations or Super Rugby, to be fair. I did the Exeter Chiefs jersey review, their new jersey. I wanted to compare it to the Saracens one to see which one is nicer. I did... What else did I do? Oh, the South Africans potentially joining the Six Nations. A few things like that. It was a bit of fun to the live stream. So yeah, if you are interested in joining this monthly list of names that scroll along here, the link to Patreon is down in the description. So you can join the likes of Yako, Andrew, Johnny, Margaret, and Daniel, who all signed up during February. And I also can't forget King Lizard and the Wizard Gizzard. That's quite a username. So yeah, thank you to you folks for your support. I hope you enjoy the content which is on Patreon. There's a bin about to go down my driveway by the sounds of things. But yeah, thank you guys as always for your support. And to the people who've been on Patreon for quite some time. It is truly an awesome thing you do. Now, to the new stuff. Six Nations to potentially go behind a paywall. The news I read is that the Six Nations organizers haven't said no, that they're not going to rule out a potential move to paid TV for the Six Nations. From the Six Nations broadcasters video I did, at least in all of the Six Nations, the countries who compete in the Six Nations, they all have it free to air. Whether it's ITV, BBC, I forget the French channel off the top of my head. But yeah, they all had it free to air. They even have it on the Welsh channel as well in the UK too for Welsh speaking viewers, which is just extra cool. But potentially Sky Sports, the UK one, not the New Zealand one, is going to put in a big bid to take the rights away from the BBC and ITV until 2024. So that'd be 2022, 2023, and 2024. Apparently, they've ruled out taking any joint bids like they did last time. So the games this year, at least in the UK, are split between ITV and BBC. So they're ruling out having that. So it might be hard for either ITV or the BBC to justify trying to compete with whatever Sky TV is going to offer. So, it's an interesting one because, I mean, all rugby here in New Zealand is pretty much behind a paywall, whether it's the Mitre 10 Cup, which is our domestic competition, Super Rugby, all the All Blacks games, the Rugby Championship, the Six Nations, any of it. It's all behind a paywall. There's none of it ever free to air. Virtually, the Rugby World Cup was on a different broadcaster from the normal one, but either way, it was still you had to pay. They had like a couple of free games, but for the most part, New Zealanders are pretty used to paying for it. But it's our number one game, so if you can't get people to pay for rugby, then you're kind of gonna struggle. In Australia, I think having the game behind the paywall has been pretty. Well, it's had a detrimental effect on the game anyway. Because Australia is a competitive market with sports. They've got plenty of other sports vying for eyeballs. And if other ones are free to air, you're just going to get a bigger market. And I think part of rugby's decline in Australia, obviously it's a multifaceted thing, but it's probably down to the fact that it's been on Fox Sports Australia for such a long time. I think South Africa is probably similar to New Zealand in that people are willing to pay for it if they're kind of hardcore rugby fans because it's the number one game. But even in New Zealand, Sky, who's our main, this New Zealand Sky, their subscriber numbers have been going down for years as interest in rugby drops. To be fair, the women's game has grown, but the men's game, in terms of like grassroots numbers, are not what they used to be, as people find other things to do with their time. So to get back to this point, I think it'd be unfortunate for it to go behind the paywall. You're just reducing your audience. For some people, that's probably the only time they watch rugby throughout the year. Some people couldn't give two anythings about the Pro 14 or the Premiership or anything like that. Some people only watch the internationals. It's the same here. All Blacks games always sell out. Super 14 games, or Super Rugby games never sell out. That's just, yeah. So I think it'd be unfortunate, but they're going to chase the money. Maybe. We'll see. I'd like to see it stay free to air, but I guess it's one that we will watch with interest. The next one, the COVID-19, you may have noticed that the Italy-Ireland game, or Ireland-Italy, has already been postponed in the Six Nations, with Northern Italy having increased numbers in people contracting the coronavirus. The Sunwolves, who's a Japanese-based franchise in Super Rugby, they have shifted their latest two home games, which are upcoming, to Australia rather than playing them in Japan. The top league, which is the Japanese league, has been postponed. A couple of Pro 14 games have been postponed. And Mako Vunipola, who only he's had a stopover in Hong Kong on his way back from a funeral over this side of the world. He's being self-isolated by the Rugby Football Union, even though he was just transitioning in Hong Kong. It's not like he was out and about, from what I've read. So, yeah, it is having an effect on the game, and I think it's probably going to continue. I think we'll see more games either postponed, cancelled, or shifted in terms of venue, maybe played behind closed doors. I don't know. But, yeah, it is going to be one to watch. The Olympics is probably the next one as well with the Sevens. That may be under a bit of a threat. But still early days. New Zealand's only got 2 cases, so it was none about a week ago. But yeah, there we go. We'll see what happens. People are going to be panic buying onions again. And the last one is the potential change to the Rugby Championships format. And again, kind of like the Six Nations one, this one's not confirmed yet. The New Zealand Herald's reporting it, that they're going to change the way New Zealand and Australia go to South Africa and Argentina, and vice versa. So currently, the Rugby Championship is different from the Six Nations in that you have to play all the other teams twice. So you play them twice rather than once, and you play them once home and once away. So it would usually start for New Zealand fans. We might get a game against Australia first, then we go to Australia to play a game. They have a week off, and then they'll have South Africa will come to New Zealand, and then after they're finished with us, they'll go to play the Wallabies, and then the Argentinians will come from the Wallabies to play us. And then there's another week off, and then we'll travel to Argentina, and then travel to South Africa. So it's a lot of travel, especially for, that South Africa trip and the Argentina trip to either Australia or New Zealand is a long way. So from what it looks like they're reporting is that every alternate year they will change who hosts between either like Australia and South Africa and New Zealand and Argentina. So for example, one year South Africa will come to New Zealand and we will still play twice, but we'll play both games in New Zealand. And that year New Zealand will not go to South Africa. And then the next year, New Zealand will play 2 games in South Africa and South Africa will not come to New Zealand. I do kind of like that idea because it gives more of that old tour feel. Like to get a tour win in South Africa when I was growing up was always like mission impossible. So I do like that aspect to it. It would reduce down some of the travel. How the home unions would deal with the loss of revenue in the years where they don't get the 2 home games, because to be fair, the crowds for different teams are not created equal. Some teams are bigger draws than others. So that will be an interesting one to watch. But yeah, and I guess it would maintain the blitters low and whatnot, because Australia and New Zealand are that close that they would still be able to play once home, once away, at least during the year. So yeah, that's another one to watch. I feel like that's not a bad move. I feel like that's going to make some years where the All Blacks may not go into it as red hot favourites, because I know they lost it the year just gone, but they generally go into the competition every year as red hot favourites. So if they know they've got to go to South Africa twice, that suddenly becomes a lot more difficult prospect. But anyway, you guys let me know what you reckon about the Six Nations, about COVID-19, if you're not sick of talking about that already. I know it's been a pretty big thing. And I know in terms of the wider scale of things, like whether rugby games are cancelled or not, is very much small potatoes. But we all like watching rugby. If you're here, you probably like watching rugby. So what effect it has on rugby is also important to me, even if it's not way up there in the importance of all the problems in life. It's still one to kind of watch. But yeah, also how's the Rugby Championship going to go if they do shift that format? But yeah, thanks again everyone for viewing, subscribing, liking, commenting, Patreon people, all that stuff. Support always much appreciated. February was a pretty good month. We'll see how March goes, continuing on with the Six Nations, Super Rugby, and yeah, all that fun stuff. But yeah, cheers guys, and I will talk to you again soon. See you later.